All right, welcome EDJ back to the Papa Shro Nose podcast, and we're here to wrap up the Browns game a little bit, look forward. Really a lot to talk about with the Chiefs, I feel like this week, depending on left tackle situation, the from the Browns game to the Texans game, going into this span of 3 games in 11 days. Whole lot going on. So welcome back to the podcast, EDJ.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I was trying to find a better light since I didn't realize you actually put my face on the internet last week. I needed a makeup team and a lighting specialist just to help me with my ugly mug, and I didn't know angles were going to be important, but I guess they were. So I'm going to try to find the best angle possible. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it was about as ugly as I was on YouTube last week. So, yeah, it was another win. 13-1. Again, it's hard to complain, but what was Andy doing? I, I'm just very confused. Do you have any ideas? Because I don't. I really don't.
No, I kind of was at a loss too at one point where it just felt like I don't know. It feels like you should run the ball a little bit more, right? Especially with this team, everything that's going on. Felt like a game that, towards the end, it was a little bit frustrating, but then it was really frustrating when Pat went down. Obviously when he got hurt, at the end of whatever drive that was towards the end of the game, and then, Carson Wentz had to take over. So I don't know. It's odd because, like you said, it's hard to complain. And this last week or so, especially this last week, because I've seen a lot of, tweets, comments of just, they're barely winning these games. Good luck when it comes to the playoffs. And it's like they were losing these games last year, and it ended with a Super Bowl win. So I'm confused to why how 365 days later, I mean, literally last Christmas, we weren't sure if the Chiefs were even going to win the division, let alone make the playoffs, let alone win a Super Bowl. So I feel oddly optimistic, I will say. I think Joe Tooney did an amazing job sliding over the left tackle spot. It's not an easy thing to do. I thought it was funny how Jason Kelsey, he was so hyped to talk about that on Travis and Jason's podcast. And Caliendo did a great job too. I believe he allowed zero pressures from left guard. So that might be what you see moving forward. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think DJ Humphries looked terrible, especially after going and reviewing the film. But I don't know. Weird game though, just like the rest of them.
Yeah, but I mean, the one positive takeaway is they had what, six forced turnovers that game or something like that. So they went from the negative in turnovers to the positive, which is a hard thing to do in the NFL in one game. But they did it, and you were right about that. James Winston threw, I think, was it four interceptions or three? I think he ended up with three total,
I
if
think it
I'm
was
not
three. I'm pulling
mistaken.
up the stats right now.
Um,
Yeah, it was three. So
okay, three
146
total.
yards,
That's
three
what I thought.
touchdowns. Dorian Thompson Robinson also threw a pick. So there was four total interceptions. And I can't remember if it was the one that Thompson Robinson threw or if it was the last one Jameis threw. But that one that Trent McDuffie had in the end zone was sick. I mean, and I don't know if you saw the
Mm.
clip of him explaining it, but he looked at the Jumbotron basically to gauge where the ball was coming. Where he's like, "Oh, that's my side." Turned around, caught the ball. That was just a sick play though by McDuffie.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he talked about, well, you just talked about it. He talked about using the video screen as part of, the in life game, which, your first career interception, you got to take what they're given and use the jumbotron. Why not? I mean, you got to take every advantage you can, especially on the road. But I think Chiefs fans, at least like we talked about, the more casual Chiefs fans are really, um, I'm trying to think of the word here, uh, maybe put to ease about that game Sunday, but there's still, again, a lot of red flags. Um, that offense was not good for a majority of the game. As a matter of fact, it was quite bad, which is hard for me to say because I usually don't say that, but it was quite bad. At some points, it was downright ugly. Um, I just don't know. Patrick at one point had what, nine straight incompletions, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, I'll read off the stat line for everybody real quick. 19 of 38. It's rough. 159 yards, two touchdowns. Two touchdowns kind of saves it a little bit, but the efficiency, and I'll get to my efficiency ties a little bit later, but Kareem Hunt, 13 carries, 45 yards. Pacheco, 13 for 32. Worthy had three carries for 30 yards and a touchdown. Receptions wise, Worthy actually led the team. I think that's personally a bright spot, and I think something Andy did on purpose was to get Xavier Worthy involved as much as possible in the game plan. I know right before we started recording, we kind of talked about how atrocious the game plan was, and I mean, no doubt it was. Like, I don't think that it was great the way that this game went down. But you did have a comfortable lead through most of the game. I think it felt like it was 14 to nothing forever in the game. So I do think the Chiefs felt like they had room, wiggle room to play with. I don't think they felt like the offense of the Browns was really a threat. So I do think that they kind of went into this game saying, "Hey, we're going to play around with some stuff in this game, and we should still end up winning. It should be, either a regular one score victory or maybe a little bit, but we should have some cushion to kind of get to a point where we can play around with some stuff for the postseason or, because we're 3 weeks away now from the postseason. So I don't know. I do like some of the things they did just because I see the vision of this wasn't for now, this wasn't for this week, this was for the divisional round, the conference championship game, maybe the Super Bowl, and especially getting Worthy comfortable because we've talked about it throughout the season. Worthy just has not been comfortable, hasn't been able to get his feet right in any situation. So I do think that long term wise, this will be a game that was, good for the Chiefs, I guess, which I don't know. Here we are both kind of talking about how terrible this game was. We're talking about a 21-7 victory.
Well, I mean, as you know, we've both watched the NFL a long time. Sometimes a 14-point win doesn't always look that way,
Yeah.
and I think that's a big part too. But, we'll take it as we go. I did want to touch on because we kind of were critical of Xavier Worthy 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a little longer now. But boys, he looked a lot better. I think he's looked a lot better. He looks more comfortable. I think the end arounds, I just don't know if he's discovered how to use his speed and pads yet. He's still getting tackled at the ankles, and the shoelace tackles. And I think, he's probably used to college to where those weren't even a possibility for him. But he does look a lot better. I think Andy has figured out a way to make him more comfortable. Um, and I think Patrick threw it to him 11 times Sunday, or more than 10, I think. I think he caught 6 or 7 of them. But I mean, he does look better. Um, there's a lot of improvement there. Like you talked about, Hollywood Brown will be back for Saturday's game against the Texans. We'll see how much of that is really him being used and how much of that is just kind of him getting his feet wet until the playoffs start. But I think it'll kind of be kind of like the Hopkins deal. We'll see him a couple plays here and there to start on Saturday, but then as the games progress, we'll see him get into it more. But a lot of question marks. Is how healthy is Patrick moving forward? Is Joe Tooney and Caliendo the new left side from now on? Because if it is, I'll take it. I agree with you. I thought it was a great success. Myles Garrett didn't do much of anything other than sell a poke to the eye, which I thought was kind of over dramatic, but whatever. But yeah, I thought the left side was great. Um, but damn, man, just run the ball. And this is what we've talked about forever with Andy. It's kind of the opposite of having a coach you want to throw the ball. Just run the damn ball, Andy. I mean, you've done it all year. Fremont ran the ball nearly 30 times a game for a stretch of 5 games. What's the problem? I
It's
don't know.
been the same thing since the Eagles had Brian Westbrook. This is how
Yes,
long this has been going on with Andy Reid. Run the damn ball. And it's weird
yes.
because for me, or it's weird to me because I feel like there's times where I get into a lull with Andy where it's like, okay, it's like one either or. It's it's like he either runs the ball too much or doesn't run the ball enough. Like I feel like there's no. It's like you get into these spells where it's like 3, 4 straight run plays and it's working. And this is the most mind-numbing thing is when you're getting 5 yards per carry basically, four straight carries, and then all of a sudden there's three straight passing plays that do nothing, and now you're punting. And I'm just like, dog, like just sneak
Well,
a run in there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
that
we
and
don't
that
have to
that
do
was
one or the other. We can do them together. Like
mhm. And that was the problem, and you nailed it on the head. It was just the consistency of run pass. It was well, pass.
he's right.
Eventually, we're gonna run it, pass. Okay, let's run on 3rd and 9. Okay, yeah, it's
Shout
just
out
like
to
yeah.
who was that? Todd Haley. Shout out to Todd Haley. Run a draw, 3rd and 21. Draw play.
Well, yeah, we saw how
Uh-oh.
that worked out, but you know,
Yeah.
I
You
just
were correct though. Xavier were the 11 targets.
okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But I just again, it's I think you nailed it on the head. I think a lot of it was Andy showing very basic different things, like he always does. I think we're seeing now a little bit more of Andy's playoff flavor. I did notice different things that we hadn't done all year, and I think we'll see that especially Saturday because I don't think we'll see Patrick throw the ball more than 20 times. I just don't think we'll see that due to his injury, and I think he'll get rid of it in 2 seconds every time. So I mean,
Yeah, I think it has to be that. And maybe where he gets more involved. I mean, I don't know if he gets more involved than 11 targets, but just looking at, how they use him, maybe they want to try to target him a little bit more. But I think you're right. I think they're getting geared up towards the playoffs just in general of, the things that they're doing, the plays they're calling, some of these drives that they're having. I think it was last week, the Chargers game that we talked about. There was one drive particular that kind of sealed the game that was like, all right, that was Andy. And then that's where it gets weird with the Chiefs because they don't, it's always speculation, right? Because that was Bieniemy's big thing was like, well, can he not get a head coaching job because he's not the one that's actually calling the plays? Well, how about Nagy and Peterson? They both got head coaching jobs, and Nagy's back, and who's really running the show? And I mean, I think it's a mix. I think it always will be. I actually saw a good thing about uh John Gruden. It was a funny story between him and Andy having a, kind of a professional rivalry when they were coaches on the Packers under Mike Holmgren. And, I assume he probably runs it a little bit like Mike Holmgren, where, you know, some assistant coach draws up a play and says, hey, I think this will work. They look at it and, look it over and maybe they throw it in the playbook. Maybe they throw it in the game plan. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's tough when it comes to the Chiefs because it's so nuanced with the offense, I feel like. And you have all these geniuses in the mix, which I don't want to like act like I'm just like, taking a shot because they are geniuses. We've seen
right,
it. But it's
right.
just, it's a tough year. There's a lot of injuries. It's a tough year. And at the end of the day, I guess my overall summary of the Browns game, I still feel extremely positive about this team. And unfortunate circumstance. What do you think about Patrick Mahomes? He was pulled. So we're recording this Thursday night. He was completely pulled off the injury report.
I expected it. You know, I think you're going to have to hit Patrick with a car in order for him to not play. And a couple cars maybe, but he's just that kind of guy, and maybe to his own fault in a way. I think he understands the implications of a three-peat, but somebody somewhere is going to be like, listen, just sit down, because they literally had to force him to sit down in that Browns game. You could see
You could
Nagy
tell on the
fighting with him
sideline. Yeah, when they
for
showed him on
10
TV,
minutes,
you could tell.
and it's just like, dude, just sit down.
Mhm.
I mean, the Browns aren't doing anything. Just sit
So,
down.
so do you think that means he was faking the injury?
That's always been a question about not faking injuries, but I think he has a lot of flair, and I think some people question as to how the extent of it. I think some star players like a little drama. I mean, look at Paul Pierce. Look at um, Kobe Bryant and all the dramatic moments he had. So I mean, I think a lot of players enjoy a little bit of drama to it. Now, I think he does have weak ankle. I mean, the guy every injury he has is his foot or his ankle.
Yeah, I
So
don't know if it really matters how strong or weak your ankle is when it's getting
yeah,
rolled up on by 300-pound defensive
well
linemen. But
that too, but
yeah, I just say that to really joke with all the people saying that he keeps faking injuries and stuff. And it's just like, I get it from an outside perspective, but
Mhm.
sometimes like I just think, if you haven't been athletically inclined in your life, you haven't went out and actually competed or played in a sport or I mean, even down to Little League. I mean, even when you're down in Little League, it's not like somebody hasn't kicked your shins out from underneath you or something. You know what I mean? Like you deal with stuff that hurts. You can't get up for a minute, and then all of a sudden, boom, that adrenaline kicks in. You're good to go. Like, and maybe afterwards, all of a sudden you can't walk. Like, how many times do we see a player where something gets messed up? It's their knee, it's their ankle, and I don't mean like they tore something. I just mean like it gets hurt, and then they come off the field, and all of a sudden it's swollen the size of their leg, or and now it's all week working. I mean, these high ankle sprains, we see it all the time where a guy will be, finish the game, but then when he comes off the field, it's like, oh, his ankle is the size of, I can't think of anything to compare it to.
Grapefruit.
A grapefruit. There you go. Thank you.
We'll use JR's size of grapefruits as an example. Um, yeah, I don't know. As a fan, I think Patrick does like to add a little bit of flair to his injuries. I mean, in the Super Bowl, I think he was in a lot of pain against the Eagles, but I mean, he came out and won the game with his feet. So is he tough? Absolutely. But does he maybe enjoy a little bit of flair? I'm sure he does. I mean, I think when you can add flair and you're that big of a superstar, is the NFL boring to you? And it just kind of seems like maybe it's not as competitive for him as he wants it to be. Now, if you look at how he's playing, I think it's more competitive than he'd want you to think. But, it just kind of seems like with Patrick, he does have a flair, but I think he does get injured quite a bit because of how bad the offensive line has played this year.
I think you're
But
right
he's
on.
always
Oh, go ahead and finish.
no. Go ahead.
I think you're right on both points because honestly, the way he plays the game of football, there's moments in the game, and I can't remember what game it was. It might have been that, um, well, I think it might have been Sunday. Either way, but it's like Mahomes doesn't perform like Mahomes until he knows the game's on the line. It's like you could go all day. I think it was a joke I made with Ray where they were up 14 in this game, and I was like, now they're going to go three and out until the Browns manage to score a couple touchdowns or a touchdown and a field goal. It's got to be close. And then all of a sudden he'll perform again. And it's just like, I do think you're right where he adds a little bit of flair to it, probably the injury. But I mean, like I said, that stuff, it hurts in the moment. Adrenaline is running. There's so many different things to it where, you just play through it. You get through it. I'm sure the initial of his ankle getting rolled was not fun. But then again, like we said, it feels like the Chiefs have to be in a close game for him to really perform, or it has to come down to it's always the moments where it's like, okay, it's now or never, and then all of a sudden it's boom, touchdown, touchdown, field goal.
Well, it just kind of seems like that's kind of the same effect that Brady and Manning had, right? Because in all those games, it's like, oh, Tom Brady's being a big whatever you want, and Peyton Manning's complaining the whole game, blah 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 blah. Even Philip Rivers, had that same aesthetic to him. But when it mattered, they'd kick you in the chest and take your heart out. So I think that's the Patrick Mahomes factor too. If they're not playing very well or not as well as they should, when it matters, you hit it on the head. That's when they hit the home run. So I think it's the superstar factor, and I think it's just the Chiefs having problems. And I think that's what people aren't used to who don't watch the Chiefs every day is just the straight up problems that they're having, and they feel like, oh well, this is just a bad team. Technically, you're right, it is a bad team, but it's Patrick Mahomes.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think it's the efficiency, just all around in general, the efficiency of the Chiefs. Um, Offense and defense wise because they give themselves opportunities, they put themselves in these positions to win these games, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that they have won. I mean, I don't know how many games it is now, one possession games throughout the season. So looking forward to the Texans.
14, I think,
Is it 14? Well,
because
it
I think
can't
the
be. They got
Patriots record
13
was
wins.
Oh, well, wait a minute. No, 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 because it's 14 consecutive, and
Okay, so it dates back to, well, it dates back to the Super Bowl,
there
obviously.
we go. Yeah, so there we
I
go.
think it
14
would
consecutive,
even
13.
date back further than that because the
Well,
AFC
if they don't,
Championship game was a one possession game. The Bills game, either way, we could probably go all day on that. But
who knows?
yeah, the Texans are coming up to Arrowhead on Saturday. How you feeling about that game?
Well, I was feeling more confident, honestly, if Carson was starting. I think that Patrick needed to rest this one out. The Texans aren't the same as they were a year ago. CJ Stroud's kind of going through that sophomore slump. He's still a great quarterback, but you can tell that teams have kind of figured out a way to force him to throw interceptions, which he just wasn't doing. His rookie year, which was wild, and he wasn't kind of start the year, but now teams have figured him out. And, I think the Texans have had some injuries. Nico Collins has been out a couple times this year, which is a great receiver for them. I don't think Diggs has panned out as much as they wanted him to. Um, but, the Texans are still dangerous. They still have Joe Mixon. CJ Stroud can definitely put it on you if he wants to, and they still have Diggs. I mean, and I think Nico Collins is officially back. Like he's played a couple of games, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but it's a good team, and I expect it to be another close game. I think the spread's 3.5, something like that. So we're not getting much favorability for that one. But it makes me nervous, because Will Anderson Jr. is a great linebacker. He can get to the quarterback. D'Amico Ryans was known for defense. He's a great defensive-minded coach. I think they'll get to Patrick. I did see a clip of, I'm not sure who the defensive player was. I'm not slighting him. I just can't remember what his name was. um, for the Texans that said, "Oh, we're going to bring it to him on Saturday at Arrowhead." So I see he hasn't got the memo about people who say things on in the internet about the Chiefs yet, but he may learn about that one. Um, Confidence, I'd probably give it about a 6. The annoying part is if the Bills lose, they don't really need to win this one, So it's tough if you're a Chiefs fan because we have what after there's 2 games left, and they really only need to win one more,
Well, you got to
technically
turn
one
around and
more.
face the Steelers on Christmas Day, so you're
Right, and
just on
TJ
5 days
TJ
rest.
Watt's out,
True.
from my understanding, so you at least avoid that.
But I still think
Um,
that at this point is like, what is Carson Wentz on the roster for if he's not going to
that's true.
start in a game
That's
like
true, and
this?
yeah, that's
Just
true. That's the thought I had the other day. I was like, man, he's probably I would consider him the best backup any team would have. Just being a
definitely the
homer.
best one that the Chiefs have had. And I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
Chad Henne did a great job, when he
Chad
stepped in.
Henne, Matt Moore, he played a couple games and played really well.
Yeah,
Um,
so I just don't understand why you don't trust. Not to say they don't trust Carson Wentz, but I just think that it's the right idea. You're facing a team that's coming in 9-5, and I mean, I get it. This is a playoff team that you're going to face, but at the same time, I don't know if it helps you work out any, like stuff that you got going on in the offense, but at least gives your quarterback time to reset. Get healthy, maybe play at Pittsburgh, or I guess maybe you could go vice versa and have Mahomes play Saturday, then rest him. I get it. It's tricky with the standings, and it depends on what happens with Buffalo and all of that because they're still right there. But it's a 2 game lead, so I mean, I just don't understand why not having the even if the Chiefs lose, it's not detrimental. But I also do get the point of let's end this now.
Well, I definitely get it, and I appreciate it. I mean, I think the Chiefs are, like you said a couple weeks ago, the Chiefs are hell bent on getting that 1 seed, and avoiding that treacherous road stance that they had in the playoffs last year. That was brutal for any team, especially the Chiefs. But it all goes back to you're only as good as your best player is, the old saying, and it just makes me nervous when you have a guy who is so gun ho on playing every single game. I mean, this guy could play on a toe if he wanted him to, but it's at some point, if you're Andy Reid, if you're Matt Nagy, if you're Brett Veach, if you're whoever, Clark Hunt even, you have to look at Patrick and just be like, look, man, I really appreciate it. You've done a lot for this franchise in such a short time, but we're going to do something for you. and make you sit. We're gonna make you sit because you just got to because we're not winning the Super Bowl without you. It's not gonna happen. I don't think we're gonna see a Nick Foles type gig from Philadelphia. Not that Carson Wentz isn't good. I
I was
just
about to
don't think
say,
we see that.
how poetic would that be though if that did happen? Mahomes is done for the year and Carson Wentz does the Nick Foles where Nick Foles did the Nick Foles to Carson Wentz.
Well, I think Carson Wentz is maybe daydreaming about that a little bit to maybe get
Right.
some revenge from Nick Foles. Um, but and I've seen Carson Wentz. We've seen Carson Wentz snippets here and there. He doesn't look bad. I mean, he looks mobile. He looks like he's throwing the ball pretty quick. Um, it's just honestly, I'm more curious to see him play a full game. I just want to see if he's still a talented starting quarterback, because I think he could be.
Maybe the
But I
Chiefs
mean,
don't
look,
want
if
the
he
rest of the NFL to find that out.
could be, I mean, but I think the AFC West has well, the Raiders don't. There you go. That's a good point. The Raiders don't have a quarterback.
Hmm.
But, I think the AFC West is pretty set. I mean, tonight they're playing a game, Chargers Broncos. It's a wild one. So I think the AFC West is set for the next 10 years. But I don't know. There's a lot of just uncertainty, it feels like. Usually we have a lot to say, but it just doesn't seem like this week is much to say other than they just got to win the game. I don't care who it is. Hell, I mean, Matt Castle could come out of retirement and come back out there and throw a couple balls as long as he gets it down the field. Um, they just got to get the job done. I think they will, but it's
Yeah,
more of a
and the only part that does suck about the final few games of the season is there's no easy games really left. There's the Texans, your final home game, at Pittsburgh, at Denver. I don't think Denver's a cakewalk. I don't think that's an easy game at all. Obviously came down to a blocked field goal last time. Meanwhile, I can't remember who the team in the middle is for the Bills, but the Bills have two games against the Patriots left.
Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. Or I'm sorry, Patriots, Dolphins, Patriots.
Patriots, Dolphins, Patriots. So maybe the Dolphins can squeak out a win. Kind of doubt
Well, I
that.
mean, it seems like Josh Allen has a problem with beating the Patriots twice a year. Seems like he always drops one to them. So
Fair
maybe
enough.
we get lucky there. Maybe the Dolphins. I think Dolphins are terrible. So maybe we'll get one there. I don't, wishful thinking. Maybe it, the dream
Yeah,
scenario is the Chiefs win one more, but I think they have to win all three. Unfortunately,
I mean, yeah, if the Bills are gonna win out, I mean, they pretty much have to win out. They could drop one more game, but if the Bills drop one game, it's over. So, for the number one seed, at least.
well, I mean, do you think that at this point, when you're playing this physically, trying to think, disabled more or less at this point with Patrick and all of them, do you think Andy's going to pull back the playbook even more now? And I feel like this is something Andy would do. I mean, you can't. I mean, you're talking about, maybe more than less than 15 times, looking for different aspects of the game. But I feel like he's going to pull the back even more, which makes me even more nervous than I would be on just a normal Patrick day.
Pull the playbook back as in, opening up and showing more, or vice versa,
Showing
showing
even
less.
less than he does, which I
I
feel
mean, I
like
could
is
kind of
odd.
see that if because I mean, at the end of the day, like, what are you supposed to do on a third? We were just kind of, or I was just joking about Todd Haley running screens and draws on 3rd and 21, but what else do you do in that situation in a game like this? Because I'm not pulling the trigger on four verts going down the field or any kind of deep route that needs to take time to develop. Not in this game. Not like it just doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter enough. I don't think this game does to do, anything that's going to risk the health of Mahomes. But then again, it's where I go back to why the hell isn't Carson Wentz just starting the game? I think EJ froze on us there for a second.
Yeah, it
Oh,
froze
you're
up on
back.
us.
But yeah, either way. Honestly, for the first time in I think 2 years, I think I might chalk this one up as a loss for the Chiefs on Saturday.
You think so?
The only reason I say that is you got a team that's still young, they're hungry, we're close to the playoffs, and I think that with the Chiefs, like the number one seed is not locked up, right? But it's, until we get to, if the Chiefs were to lose and the Bills were to win this weekend, okay, we all know there's one game of separation there. It's time to lock in, right? So I don't think that's this game. So I think with all of the Mahomes injury and all of these things, I don't know. I do like the Texans.
And maybe that's where our cautious uncertainty is. I think I like the Texans too. And not necessarily for any particular reason. I think the Chiefs have a better roster, but with all the circumstances, and I think you brought up a good point. Um, just this is a game where if you're going to have a margin of error, this would be the one to have. And losing to the Texans, even though it grows your 2-game lead to one, you still got to lead. And you got to go play a good team in the Steelers, and then an emerging team in the Broncos to finish out the year. Are those both road games?
Yes, both road games.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
So I mean, you'd like them to finish out the year at home with a win, and then have that margin of error in Pittsburgh or Denver. But you just have that sneaking feeling that the Chiefs could get mopped in this one. It just seems very eerie in a way. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it just seems like, man, we could get stomped. I mean,
Yeah.
and maybe that's how Chiefs fans are feeling in this one. Maybe just because of the health of Patrick, and I don't know, but it just seems like this may be ugly. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm starting to feel that.
I think with the defense getting their confidence back last week, I don't think that it'll be ugly necessarily or it'll get out of hand. I think it'll still be close, probably still a one score game. But at the same time, it's also hard to think the offense is going to put up points. Like more than
That's what I mean. I think
yeah.
it'll be close, but it'll be, oh my God,
Yeah. I wouldn't
just
be I wouldn't be shocked at a 24 to 12 loss where it felt like we just
just
got,
three and out, three and out, three and out, three and out. It's just
hmm
like, I think at some point we're gonna really question what Andy was thinking, letting Patrick play. And I hate to think that. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong, but it just seems like this this seems like I'm trying to think of a game. I know we've had one like this in Patrick's career. This seems eerily similar to the Lions game to start the year last year. In a
I like
sense
that actually. I
of
like that analogy because it does kind of
in a
feel the
sense
same
of
way.
it just seems like, you know, obviously the banner reveal is an awful game, blah blah blah. But it just has that same feeling of we're not at 100%. It's a good team, not a great team, but a good team. Obviously, the Lions are much better this year, but this is a losable game, and I think that's where everyone's uncertainty is that if Patrick goes out and 19 of whatever it was in the Browns game, 152 yards, that's not going to get the job done. So I think they have to figure out a way to use Xavier Worthy more, maybe Hollywood Brown more than they want to. But I mean, one bright spot I will say is, man, Hopkins can make some catches. Hopkins can make some catches, man. And I've seen him 3 weeks in a row now make a catch where he's literally been covered completely and grabbed it with one arm. I mean, that is a find that they desperately needed. Um, but it doesn't, it's just that effectiveness. It's just the effectiveness of turning it into touchdowns, I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that it's been kind of a common thing now all season. So before we run out of time on here, just what's your final score prediction for Saturday?
Oh boy. Uh, I'm with you. I think for the first time and maybe longer, almost 4 years. I think I'm going to pick the other team. I think I will take the Texans 27-17. I think we have a lot of problems with Patrick. I think, the defense has played better, like you said, but it definitely has a lot of flaws. And I think the Texans might expose that a little bit. Um, I think we correct it and win the next two, but I feel like this is a game we lose at least by 10, 27-17.
And I almost feel like it would almost be good just because, just like the Raiders game on Christmas Day last year, where it was like kind of a final kick, that they needed to really, okay, we got to get our stuff together. Like playoffs are coming. And I think the defense steps up. I'll say 17-12. I don't think I'll budge off my 12. I say the Chiefs don't score a single touchdown on
I was
Saturday.
going to say 12. Man, so that's
Four
almost
field
field
goals.
goals. Ooh, I
I
hate to say
just
it, but
don't.
I can see it.
It just my mind may change once I see Patrick moving around a little bit and if he looks like he's all right, but just out of precaution, I just feel like a lot of short, simple screens, quick slants, and I just don't think the Chiefs have been thoroughly effective. We'll see if Hollywood Brown comes back because from everything I've seen in practice, I mean, or what they've reported on practice is that that's his new favorite number one target. Has been all week was Hollywood.
Well, I would hope so. That was the plan, from the
Right.
get-go was for him to be the one, or well, two, I would assume. Well, I don't know, one or two, Rasheed Rice, Hollywood Brown,
Right.
take your
Yeah.
pick. But, you know, if Hollywood Brown, if Rasheed Rice were in the, or let me try that again, we're healthy all year. I think
Totally different team.
totally different team, one. Two, I think you saw on an opening night in the first couple of weeks when Rasheed Rice was playing, this was a completely different offense.
Yeah. No, I
With
agree. I
Rasheed
think
Rice
that's
out
a
of that.
huge part. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, but again, for the first time this year, I think we both are just kind of like, this could be bad.
Nah, I
So,
agree with you. All right, shout out EDJ for stopping by the pod. You heard it here too. Chiefs fans that are a little weary about Saturday's matchup against the Texans. We'll see how it goes. Let me know in the comments below how you guys are feeling, what you guys think, and who should be starting on Saturday, Patrick Mahomes or Carson Wentz? Obviously, it looks like it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. We shall see how it unfolds. If you enjoyed the podcast, of course, smash that subscribe button. We are on the road to 300. We're almost there. Planning to hit that before 2025. So I know we can hit that goal. Just growing. Let's grow together and hit that goal. Also, hit that like button if you enjoyed. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, hit that follow button as well. And until next week, we'll see you then. Go Chiefs.